I thought it was just a zipper. Just a simple favor. But when I asked my stepson to help me with my dress, the way his eyes lingered, the way his touch made my heart race, I knew something dangerous had just begun. He looked at me in the mirror and whispered, "I know what I'm doing." And from that moment, nothing between us felt the same. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment. I'm always here for your best choices. The air in our penthouse always smells like money. Expensive, sterile, and a little bit cold. It's the scent of imported marble, designer leather, and the faint, always present note of my husband, Arthur's cologne. It's a smell that used to excite me. Now it just reminds me of the gilded cage. Tonight was Arthur's annual fundraising gala. Another night of being his perfect, polished armpiece. The dress was a masterpiece, a column of liquid silver that felt like a second skin, held together by a single, tantalizingly long zipper that ran from the base of my spine to the nape of my neck. It was a dare, a secret I wore in plain sight. Arthur had already left, a flurry of phone calls and impatience. "Don't be late, Sloane," he'd barked on his way out, not even a kiss on the cheek, just an order. I was an item on his checklist. Asterisk wife. Prepped and primed. Check. Asterisk. I stood in the vast, silent living room, the downtown skyline twinkling like a spilled jewelry box below me. I was almost ready. Hair a cascade of honey blonde waves. Makeup flawless and sharp enough to cut. Shoes deadly stilettos. Everything was perfect. Everything except the damn zipper. I could get the bottom few inches, my arms contorted behind me, but the crucial top half was impossible. A flutter of genuine panic started in my chest. I was going to be late. Arthur would be furious. The thought sent a familiar, cold dread through me. I needed help. And then I heard it. The soft thud of a bass line from down the hall. Arthur's son. The living, breathing embodiment of everything Arthur was not. Where Arthur was cold, polished granite, he was raw, untamed fire. He'd moved in 6 months ago after a fallout with his mother, a brooding, beautiful storm cloud in our perfectly ordered world. He was 22, all lean muscle and quiet intensity, with eyes the color of a stormy sea and a habit of looking at me like he could see right through the diamond-hard facade I showed the world. My heart did a strange, stuttering beat against my ribs. Asking him was a risk. It felt like crossing a line drawn in invisible ink. But the alternative, Arthur's cold, seething disappointment, was worse. I walked down the hallway, the plush carpet silencing my steps. His door was ajar. I pushed it open gently. The room was a mess of art books, sketch pads, and vinyl records. He was sitting on the floor, his back against the bed, headphones on, lost in whatever world his music was creating. He hadn't heard me come in. He was wearing faded jeans and a tight black t-shirt that stretched across his shoulders, and for a moment I just watched him. There was a rawness to his beauty, an unself-conscious grace that was utterly captivating. Cleared my throat. His head snapped up and he pulled one headphone off. His eyes widened slightly as he took me in, a slow, deliberate sweep from my heels to my hair. I felt that look like a physical touch, a trail of heat across my skin. It was nothing like the appraising glances I got from Arthur's business associates. This was hungrier. "Sloane. Hey." His voice was a low rumble, slightly husky. "Jax," I said, and my own voice sounded breathier than I intended. "I have a huge favor to ask. I'm stuck." A slow, knowing smile touched his lips. "Stuck?" "The zipper." I turned, presenting my back to him. The entire length of the dress was on display, the silver fabric hugging every curve, the tiny teeth of the zipper tapering to a stop just below my shoulder blades. "I can't reach it. I need you to unzip me." The silence in the room was suddenly deafening, thick and heavy. The bass from his headphones thumped softly against the floor. I could feel the weight of his gaze on my exposed back, on the vulnerable strip of skin I'd revealed. "Yeah," he said after a beat that felt like an eternity. "Okay." I heard him get up, the floorboards creaking softly under his weight. The air shifted as he moved closer, and I caught his scent. Not expensive cologne. Soap, clean cotton, and something uniquely, essentially male. It was a shock to my system, so different from the sterile air of the rest of the apartment. He was close now. So close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. I held my breath. His fingers were warm. Not brushing, not tentative. They were sure. The pad of his thumb pressed firmly against the small of my back, right at the base of the zipper to steady me. It was an electric point of contact. A jolt went straight through me, a lightning bolt of pure, undiluted sensation. "Ready," he murmured, his voice close to my ear. It was low, intimate. I just nodded, my throat too tight to speak. He began to pull the zipper down. It wasn't a quick, utilitarian motion. It was slow, deliberate. The sound was obscenely loud in the quiet room, a soft, persistent edge that seemed to sync with the frantic beating of my heart. With every inch the zipper descended, a new wave of cool air hit my skin, followed immediately by the heat of his gaze. I felt the dress loosen its hold, the fabric gaping open, revealing more and more of me to him. My skin prickled with awareness. I was hyper-conscious of every inch of space between us, of the sheer intimacy of the act. This wasn't just unzipping a dress. It was an unveiling. His other hand came up, his fingers splaying across my spine to gently guide the fabric apart as the zipper descended. His touch was firm, confident. It wasn't the hesitant touch of a boy. It was the touch of a man who knew exactly what he was doing, exactly what effect he was having. The zipper reached the end of its track with a final, soft click. The dress was open from neck to lower back. It was done. He should have stepped away. He didn't. His hands stilled. One hand remained flat against the small of my back. The other rested high between my shoulder blades. I was standing there, my back completely bare to him, the dress held on only by the precarious grip on my hips and shoulders. I was trembling. I couldn't help it. And then I felt it. Not his fingers. His lips. He bent his head and pressed his mouth to the top of my spine, right where the zipper had ended. It wasn't a kiss. It was a brand. A hot, open-mouthed press of skin on skin that sent a shockwave of pure, unadulterated lust crashing through me. I gasped, my eyes fluttering shut. His breath was hot against my skin. "I've been thinking about this," he whispered, his voice rough with a desire so raw it stole the air from my lungs. "Since the day I moved in, thinking about what was under all this." His hand on my lower back slid around, his fingers splaying across my stomach, pulling me back against him. I could feel the hard, unmistakable proof of his desire pressed against the small of my back. A moan caught in my throat. This was wrong. This was so dangerously, recklessly wrong. It was him. Arthur was waiting. My entire life, my carefully constructed world of wealth and security, was on the other side of that door. But in that moment, none of it mattered. All that mattered was the heat of his body against mine, the rough whisper of his voice, the way his touch made me feel alive for the first time in years. Arthur's touch was a demand. His was a revelation. "Jax," I breathed, a weak protest that sounded more like a plea. "Tell me to stop," he challenged, his lips moving against my neck, tracing the line of my shoulder. His hand on my stomach drifted lower, his fingertips dipping just beneath the waistband of my thong. "Tell me to stop, and I will." I should have. God, I knew I should have. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, a different truth fell from my lips. "Don't you dare stop." It was all the permission he needed. In one fluid, powerful motion, he turned me around to face him. The dress, now unsupported, slid down my body in a whisper of silver silk, pooling at my feet on the floor. I stood before him in nothing but my heels and a tiny lace thong. I should have felt exposed, vulnerable. But the look in his eyes, a mix of awe, hunger, and sheer, unadulterated want, made me feel powerful. Divine. His gaze burned over every inch of me. "Jesus, Sloane," he groaned like my name was a prayer and a curse all at once. He didn't give me time to think, to second-guess. He cupped my face in his hands and crushed his mouth to mine. It was nothing like Arthur's dry, perfunctory kisses. This was acclaiming. His lips were insistent, demanding. His tongue sweeping into my mouth with a raw passion that made my knees weak. I kissed him back with a desperation I didn't know I possessed, my hands tangling in his dark, soft hair, pulling him closer. He broke the kiss, his breathing ragged. "We don't have long," he said, his eyes dark with urgency. He was right. The car was waiting. Arthur was waiting. The reality of our situation, the insane risk, should have doused us like cold water. Instead, it poured gasoline on the fire. It made everything more intense, more desperate. "I know," I panted, pulling his shirt over his head, my nails scraping over the hard planes of his chest and abdomen. He was all taut muscle and warm skin, a landscape of youthful, vibrant strength. "I know what I'm doing." He let out a low, guttural laugh that was pure sex. "No, you don't. But that's what makes it so good." He backed me toward the bed, his mouth finding mine again in a searing kiss. We fell onto the messy sheets, a tangle of limbs and frantic hands. There was no slow seduction, no gentle exploration. This was a collision, a necessary, inevitable explosion that had been building for months. He stripped off the rest of his clothes, and then mine, his hands and mouth everywhere, learning my body with a frantic, worshipful intensity. He kissed the hollow of my throat, the swell of my breasts, the sensitive skin of my inner thighs. He made me feel not just seen but devoured, and I gave myself over to it completely, arching against him, my own hands mapping the powerful lines of his back, pulling him down to me. When he finally entered me, it was with a single deep thrust that stole my breath and tore a cry from my throat that was part shock, part pure ecstasy. He stilled for a moment, buried deep inside me, his forehead pressed to mine, his eyes locked on mine. The world narrowed to this room, this bed, this man moving inside me. "Look at me," he commanded, his voice rough with strain. "I want you to see me, not him." And I did. I watched him as he began to move, a slow, deep, devastating rhythm that built into something frantic and perfect. Every thrust was a rebellion. Every gasp was a secret. Every touch was a promise of something my life had been desperately missing. He was young and fierce, and he fucked me with a passion that felt like absolution, like he was trying to brand himself onto my very soul. It was fast and hard and over too soon. The coil of pleasure inside me, wound so tight by months of tension and minutes of exquisite friction, snapped. My climax ripped through me, violent and silent, my mouth open in a soundless scream as I shattered around him. He followed moments after, his own release racking his body, my name a broken groan on his lips as he collapsed against me. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of our ragged breathing and the distant hum of the city. The bass from his headphones had long since stopped. The reality of what we had just done began to seep into the room, cold and sharp. I was lying in his bed, naked, my body thrumming with the aftershocks of the most incredible sex of my life, while my husband waited for me at a $50,000 a plate gala. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at the edges of the euphoria. He seemed to sense the shift. He rolled onto his side, propping his head on his hand, his other hand tracing idle, possessive patterns on my stomach. His gaze was steady, unapologetic. "Don't," he said softly, reading my mind. "Don't regret it. Jax, this is..." I struggled for words. Insane. Dangerous. Arthur. Arthur is a fool, he said, his voice hardening. He has everything and he appreciates nothing. Especially not you. He leaned down and kissed me, a slow, deep kiss that tasted like promise and rebellion. I'm not sorry. He got out of bed, his body a beautiful naked silhouette in the dim light. He moved with an easy confidence that was mesmerizing. He found my dress and held it up. Come on, let's get you back into your armor. He helped me into the dress, his hands sure and steady as he guided the zipper back up. It was the same motion, but everything was different. The air was charged, thick with the scent of us. Every brush of his fingers against my skin now was a memory, a secret. When the dress was fastened, he turned me around to face him. He looked at me, his eyes sweeping over the perfectly polished exterior, and he smiled a slow, secret smile. He knew what was hidden beneath. He knew the woman who lived under the ice. You're late, he said, his voice a low caress. I know, I whispered. He kissed me one last time, quick and hard. Go. Be brilliant. I walked out of his room on trembling legs, my body still humming, my mind reeling. I collected my clutch, my wrap, and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. I looked the same. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, the impeccable Sloane Thorne. But I wasn't the same. The cool, collected facade was still there, but underneath it I was a live wire. I was a woman with a secret, a dangerous, delicious, life-altering secret. The elevator descended, and I took a deep, steadying breath. I could still feel the ghost of his lips on my neck, the imprint of his hands on my body. A slow smile touched my lips, one I didn't have to force for the first time in years. Arthur thought he was waiting for his wife. He had no idea he was waiting for a woman who had just been utterly, completely remade. I stepped out of the elevator, my head high, my smile in place, the memory of his touch burning against my skin like a brand. I knew exactly what I was doing, and for the first time in a very long time I was truly, thrillingly alive. The game had just begun, and I finally held a card that was all my own. Card named Jax.